Leather Faith. I'm Robert McMillan, and we're finishing up this series on slaying the marriage dragons. Last time we dealt with disloyalty, and that usually ends up with something we call adultery. So that was last time. Time before we dealt with neglect, and that came from Song of Solomon chapter 2 verse 15. Catches the little foxes that are spoiling our vineyard. And so before then we went to busyness. That's the first of the marriage dragons. That's going to set the stage for everything else. Today we're going to finish up that 4-part series, and we're going to take a break from marriage and family, and we're going to go on to a series leading up to Christmas, and that's going to be the Incarnation. So I hope that you'll tune in for that and enjoy it. Let me know how you like it, and if you have any ideas about what you would like me to teach on next, put it down below. If there's a passage that particularly makes you scratch your head, put it down below and I'll get to it. After we deal with Christmas time and the Incarnation, we're going to take a break from that, and we're going to deal with a short series, maybe 6 or 8 videos on end times prophecy to set the stage for that. And after that, we'll do a run-up to Easter with the Passion Week. So I hope that you're all tuned up for that, and you're going to be watching and letting me know if I'm scratching where you're itching. I'm going to give you some more information about Patreon.com and how you can help keep me on the air here at very little cost. And I will be providing you with documents, books, white papers that I've written that you can take and use for your own benefit. And you can use them. They're designed for Bible studies, discipleship, even in the pulpit. Keep tuned. Let me know what you think, because I need to know what you think about the various things that I'm doing here. Because there's no use me doing this if no one is interested, okay? So let's get on with it. Today we're going to deal with the 4th dragon, and that is passive husbands and frustrated wives, which is probably more common than you can imagine. Men are not socialized to value personal disclosure and other intimacies of conversation. We're not built that way. We don't share our soul. Women want that. Men can't do that. And so we got a real problem, don't we? Men have to ease up a little bit and reveal more of themselves. Women have to realize that men are usually pretty limited in their ability to emote. These differences between men and women produce a passiveness in the husband's treatment of his wife and frustration or anger in hers as she responds to his standoffishness, or what appears to be standoffishness. Let's look at the causes of passivity in men and the anger in wives. First of all, there's disconnectedness. Overwork and the fatigue it causes can lead to quality time diminishing between a husband and a wife. This leads in turn to disconnectedness. Why start a conversation if we can't finish it, or really can't get into it, or can't solve anything through it? Husbands and wives often get disconnected, and that condition feeds itself until there's little or no connection, either verbal or physical. Husbands and wives often get disconnected. All she wants is an occasional spontaneous hug, a dinner out, some laughter and chit-chat, some revealing of himself, a phone call here and there, a 5-minute sharing of feelings. Most wives aren't asking for too much. That produces sexual frustration. Sexual intercourse becomes less romantic, less often, and less spontaneous in a disconnected couple. Any physical contact by the husband was only for the purpose of foreplay for a hurried and unromantic sexual act. 2 sexual patterns may develop common to passive husbands. 1, the man becomes sexually disconnected, and 2, the man meets his own sexual needs through masturbation or pornography without concern for his wife's sexual needs. So we need to be careful. This really is a little fox that'll spoil the vineyard. It produces also desperation. As her anger builds, the wife looks for any out, that her husband might have an affair and then let her get out of her marriage without her Christian friends condemning her. That her husband would die or just leave. These are options of desperation that would never be considered if the person were rational. And women become irrational when the husband is constantly in this disconnected state. She begins to think that she had been wrong to have married, or at least married, her present husband. She might feel angry at God for leading her into this particular relationship and not giving her a solution to her bad marriage. Thinking only that she will spend the rest of her life with a man she does not love and who does not love her. A Christian who was expected to live miserably in a bad marriage rather than seek a divorce and try again. That's what we've always been taught. We didn't use those words, but that's what it worked out to. All of this leads to desperation as the woman finds herself trapped. No one who is desperate can review the situation and find hope that maybe all that is needed to change is some relational skill deficits. Desperation produces a sense of powerlessness, and that produces a head-in-the-sand attitude which only deepens the relational problems. Desperation in a marriage. How long does this have to go on? Pleading for change leads to angry nagging, which leads to silent, frustrated anger in the wife. Especially husbands who know the Bible verses, they know all the places where the wife is told not to be a nag, because that's like a leaky roof on a rainy day. Here in the West, Christian wives are surrounded by books that counsel submission as the cure-all for every marital problem. This may make the matters worse, since the husband may believe that the problem went away all by itself since the wife has changed and has stopped nagging him so much to be different. And what it usually just means is she's given up, or she's read some book and she's hoping that'll work out, but she doesn't think so anyway. How do you overcome these skill deficits in men, particularly? Well, dispassionate assertiveness. It's a fancy term. Does the wife has a right to assert her rights? The context of the passage in 1 Corinthians 7, verses 3 through 5 tells us that she does. In 1 Corinthians 7, 3 through 5, it says, "Let the husband render to his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband." In other words, husbands and wives have debts to each other. Social, physical, sexual debts, emotional debts to each other. The wife, verse 4, the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except with consent, for a time, that you may give yourself to fasting and prayer, and come together again. Let's come together sexually again, so that Satan does not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. The obvious question is, how long can you pray and fast? Now, this passage assumes that the husband is capable of changing, and that the wife believes he would change with the right stimulus. Such assertiveness is not an ultimatum, even though the husband may believe it to be such. Certainly God's making the ultimatum through Paul, the apostle. The wife or husband, if that should be the case, should make a short list of non-negotiables that could be requested. Those non-negotiables were to be put in behavioral terms rather than general terms. For example, sex twice a week rather than more sex, or meaningful conversations at least once a week, or a date night twice a month. 10 minutes of undistracted, meaningful conversation rather than just, quote, more talking. We can make those statements to each other. Other non-negotiables could be going to bed at the same time, eating more meals together, establishing rules that would govern behavior during times of disagreement. Because every couple argues, every couple disagrees. That's a fact of life. There are 4 primary marriage dragons, and all of them can be slain. Busyness, neglect, disloyalty, and this one, passive husbands and frustrated wives. They can all be defeated. You just got to want to. And you've got to take the steps necessary to accomplish it. So that's it for this series on slaying the marriage dragons. And I'm going to put a 16-page document on my website, www.shoeleatherfaith.org, and you can download it for free, keep it for yourself, use it any way you can, hand it out, whatever you want to do with it. I hope that you'll use it, think about it, and perhaps you and your husband or you and your wife can have a discussion about it, or you can bring it up in a Bible study or whatever you want to do with it. I'm just giving it to you for your use. And down the line, we're going to be doing this through patreon.com. So be prepared for more information on that, and we'll get going. Next time, we're going to start a series on the Incarnation. What was going on when Jesus was about to be born? How was he born, and why was he born? And that'll lead up to Christmas, and just a week or two after Christmas, we're going to get right into a series of end times prophecy. And just before Easter, we're going to do a series on the Passion Week. And I hope that you'll be joining us for each of those. And if you haven't subscribed, do that now. And click on that bell down below in YouTube so that you'll be informed when the next video is coming out. Until then, God bless you. Keep praying for your marriage. And I'll see you in Jerusalem and Bethlehem next week.